Some of the most horrific true crimes and stories hail from North America, stories of serial criminals, killers, thieves, and arsonists running rampant across the sprawling land. However, there are some crimes that are so bizarre, so unsettling that you might have a hard time sleeping tonight after hearing them. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary true stories from North America. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Coming in at number 5, Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam was a Canadian student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver who was staying at the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles back in February of 2013. However, her body was discovered in a water tank atop the hotel on February 19th. She had been reported missing at the beginning of the month, with maintenance workers at the hotel being ones to discover the body after guests had been complaining of water issues. Lam's disappearance had been widely reported, with interest increasing 5 days prior to the recovery of her body. Interest peaked after the LAPD released a video of the last time Lam was known to have been seen on the day of her disappearance by an elevator security camera. In the clip, Lam is seen repeatedly exiting and re-entering the elevator, talking and gesturing in the hallway, and even hiding inside the elevator, which itself appears to be malfunctioning. The video of course went viral on the internet, with many people finding the entire thing unsettling. Now, upon the discovery of her body, questions were raised surrounding her death, especially in light of Cecil's history in relation to the other notable deaths. Her body was found completely naked, with most of her clothes and personal effects floating in the water next to her. The autopsy report was released 4 months later with no evidence of physical trauma and states that the manner of death was accidental. The investigation into her death had determined how Lam died, however, it did not offer any explanation as to how she got into the tank in the first place. Doors and stairs that accessed the roof were locked, with only staff having the passcodes and keys. Coming in at number 4, the icebox murders. Charles Frederick Rogers was an American seismologist pilot and suspected murderer who dismembered the bodies of his elderly parents and put them in the refrigerator of his Houston home in what the media later dubbed the icebox murders. In 1965, Rogers was unemployed and living with his parents Fred and Edwina in the Montrose neighborhood of Houston. Rogers was often described as reclusive and was reported to have communicated with his parents by way of notes slipped under the door. Now, on June 23, 1965, 2 Houston police officers forced their way into the home after Edwina's nephew reported that his phone calls to his aunt were going unanswered. After searching the home, they found nothing. That was until they opened the fridge. Inside the fridge were the heads of Fred and Edwina, along with their dismembered limbs and torsos. Now, Rogers during this time was nowhere to be found, with police launching a search and a warrant was issued for him as a material witness to the crime. However, he was never found. In 1975, a Houston judge declared Rogers legally dead so his estate could be probated. The case still remains officially unsolved and Rogers remains the only suspect. Coming in at number 3, the Chicago Tylenol murders. The Chicago Tylenol murders were a series of poisoning deaths which resulted from drug tampering in the Chicago metropolitan area back in the 80s. The victims of the incident had all taken Tylenol branded capsules that had been laced with cyanide unbeknownst to them. A total of 7 people died in the original poisonings, with several more deaths in copycat crimes. Now, on September 29, 1982, 12-year-old Mary Kellerman died after taking a capsule of extra-strength Tylenol, with Adam Janus dying not long after. No suspect was ever charged with the poisonings. However, New York City resident James William Lewis was convicted of extortion for sending a letter to Johnson & Johnson that took credit for those deaths and demanded $1 million to stop them. However, there was no evidence that he committed the crimes. A second man, Roger Arnold, was identified, investigated, and cleared of the killings. Laurie Dan, who poisoned and shot an unknown number of people in the May 1988 rampage in and around Winnetka, Illinois, was briefly considered a suspect, but no direct connection was found. These incidents actually led to reforms in the packaging of over-the-counter substances and to federal anti-tampering laws. Coming in at number 2, we have Brandon Swanson. On May 14, 2008, Brandon Swanson was driving his car home from celebrating the end of spring semester with his fellow students from Minnesota West Community and Technical College's Canby campus. However, on the way back, he drove his car into a ditch. He was fine and got out of the car and called his parents to get him. Unsure of his exact location, he told them he was near Lind, and so they drove out to pick him up. However, they never found him. Swanson remained on the phone with them for 45 minutes. That was until he abruptly ended the call after exclaiming, "Oh." Those were his last words. He has not been seen or heard from since. His parents filed a missing persons report the next morning, with the circumstances of his disappearance becoming a whole lot weirder, especially after his cell phone records were retrieved, which showed he had been near Porter, 24 miles from where he told his parents he was. This ultimately led to the discovery of his car near Taunton. Now, foul play has not been ruled out, but it is also believed that Swanson may have accidentally drowned by falling into the Yellow Medicine River. After extensive searches, his body was never found. And finally, coming in at number 1, the Bennington Triangle disappearances. The Bennington Triangle is a phrase that was originally coined by an author from New England called Joseph A. Citro during a radio broadcast back in the 90s, in which he labeled an area in southwestern Vermont as the Bennington Triangle, a place within which a number of people went missing between the 40s and 50s. The first person to disappear in the area was Mitty Rivers back in 1945. Mitty was a 74-year-old woman who disappeared while out hunting. She was guiding a group of 4 hunters up the mountain. However, on their way back, Mitty got ahead of the group and was never seen again. A search was conducted, however the only evidence ever found was a single rifle cartridge that was discovered in a stream. Many speculated that she had drowned when leaning over to retrieve the cartridge, however we will never know. Paula Weldon was next to disappear in 1946. Weldon was 18 years old and a sophomore at Bennington College. She set out for a hike on the long trail, with many people seeing her set out, including an elderly couple who were about 100 yards behind her. According to them, she turned a corner in the trail, and when they reached the same corner, she was gone. No evidence of her was ever found. The Bennington Triangle has baffled people for years, with it being discussed in season 3 of the television series William Shatner's Weird or What, as well as on the podcast Lore, which discussed the events of 1945 to 1950. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any scary true stories that we missed? Leave us your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 scary cosmic horror books you need to read. Don't Sub to Me said, I counted Lucy saying horror 17 times. 17? That's not bad for a 10-minute video, so props to me. White Wizard said, sure do miss seeing our Queen of Darkness. Well, I'm back. You're welcome. I did it for you. The little people. The peasants. St. Dan in a nutshell said, purchasing Shadows of Carcosa now. Thank you, Lucy. It's a collection that fell through the cracks and now a must-have. You're very welcome. I've got great taste. Jay Gronley said, only one of these that I haven't read yet, so Lucy, you've convinced me. I'll give The Fisherman a shot. Great list though. Keep up the great work. You're very welcome. Christmas Ham said the channel should rename itself to All Things Lovecraft. We certainly should, that or All Things SCP. It's one or the other. No offense. I love it. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, I'll see you later.
You don't smile.
Yeah, that's the point.
Okay.
I look so pale in this monitor though.
No, you've got like a bronze teeth.
Yay! Okay. On our list of the top 5.
Is it too slow?
Yeah. However, her body, I think it was 2013. Fine. Just with that number. What the f? Why my scripts? What have I done? I don't get it.
You're a sinner.
I am a sinner.
So you want to start at 4 and do another insert again? Fix your hair.
Alright, Mum.
I'm helping you.
Thanks.
This is interesting.
Right? Bleak as f.
I would subscribe.
Thanks. Top 5 is actually pretty legit. It's a real channel. Leaning over to retrieve the cartridge. There's something up with the teleprompter. It's new, so it's kind of with some of them. Don't yell at me. I'm just delivering it. Many speculated that she had drowned when leaning over to retrieve the cartridge. You when leaning over to retrieve the cartridge. She set out for a hike on the long... What the f is wrong with me? Cool.
See ya.
Cool. I think that's it.